You are listening to That Big CEO Energy, where we talk all things business, life, marriage to create an impactful community, teaching you how to lead your life and your business with compassionate strength. It can be scary stepping out from the barriers we still carry while we were once employees and change the narrative to take charge of your business and team. This podcast is a place for you to come to learn to do just that. From personal experiences, interviewing new friends, I hope that you will tune in to listen all that living that big CEO energy can offer you and your business. I'm your host, Kallai, entrepreneur and fractional COO. Let's jump in. Welcome back. You are listening to episode 30, and today is a little bit different. I am just going to be fully transparent and say that being motivated within my business, within some of the things that are happening in my personal life, has just been hard. And I think this episode is pretty important if you are feeling or have felt, or if you're coming back to this later because you have found yourself in that position. I think it's important for us to recognize that this is a natural part of growth. And it's not just growth within our business, right? Meeting numbers and calculating against progress that way, but it's necessary for growth within ourselves. And so I just wanted to preface this by saying that this isn't an episode where you're going to get tangible outcomes. And it's really just a space for me to share what's on my heart and share what I have been going through in hopes that someone will be able to listen to this and resonate. So if that's you, I'm sharing space with you. I'm opening the door for you to receive whatever this episode has for you. And if you're continuing to struggle and you don't feel like you have a buddy, please reach out to me on Instagram, and I would love to be a buddy over there. No contingencies, no anything. I really like to open this space in my community for those who need it. And so if you need extra love, please feel free to head over there and send me a message. So all of that to say, this episode is me stuck somewhere between being motivated and just being over it. You will notice on my Instagram, if you follow me over there, or if you're part of my newsletter, or if, you've been reading my blog, you'll know that everything just sort of came to a stop, and it was intentional. There was a reason for that. I didn't announce it. And so let's talk about it. There are often times where I feel like, what the hell am I doing? And I'm sure some of us can relate to that, but there are certain times, and I don't know if it's a seasonal thing. If you live in a state that has 4 seasons, we usually have a harsh winter. And so I do battle seasonal depression and those components that come with it. And so moving into the springtime often is a 2-part situation. One, I'm sort of getting rid of this, what I call dead air. And I'm moving into this space of being outside and being in nature. And that is where my heart is most happy. And specifically last weekend, I'll just share with you really fast that my husband had taken his father for a fishing day. And so he got up in the morning and he left. And I got up in the morning, and it took me until about 9:30 where I was like, okay, Kallai, we're gonna go and mow the lawn, and we're gonna do the thing. Usually my husband mows the lawn. Praise God for that, because if you look at our lawn and the way it is laid out, it's awful to mow. And so I was super optimistic and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna, help the household out and mow the lawn because I really want him to not feel guilty for going on this fishing trip, right? And he works so hard, and to be able to take his dad and do that is just a gift in and of itself. So anyways, I, do the mowing thing, and I was just outside from about 9:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. I had went and got flowers, I planted them, all of the things. And even though my body was wrecked, I was so happy. And so I just know that moving into this new season, literally and figuratively, really is something that my body just needed. When I decided that I was going to take this pause, it was during the time where I had been working with my homeopathic doctor to detox a lot of the heavy metal that was in my body. And it was because of an implant that I had a few years ago. Next week, I'm going to talk about that story, but just to touch on it a little bit, I had an implant called Esher, and it was causing a lot of just overall terrible symptoms and had built up a lot of toxins in my body, along with, the normal environmental toxins that we experience. And so I have spent the last few weeks really shifting focus to more of a holistic approach, more of, grass-fed, really just trying to minimize the toxins because those are not good for me, right? So I have spent the last few weeks doing that, and I really just from feeling sick over the past few years and moving into sort of this new phase of my life, I just needed to pause. I just needed to step back and really imagine what I see my social media and how I want to show up and what are the things that I want to talk about. And it wasn't that I wasn't doing that before, but I think really becoming clear on what lights my fire and what are the things that I really want to help people with helped me to understand that there needs to be a little bit of a shift from me. And it's a mindset shift more so than, the post schedule or, sitting down in front of a microphone and finding time for that. It really was a mindset shift of I get to do this. I get to show up as myself and people like me for myself. And, you always have those naysayers, but they're one of the few. But I have a community that really enjoys being around me. And I was actually doing myself a disservice by hyper focusing on what if this post doesn't do well, or what if this podcast doesn't do well, or waiting for the next milestone to show up. And what I had done to myself is made expectations within me and my business that I was going to end up mentally failing over, because I had been so harsh on myself. And I had also enrolled in Laura Kelly's cheer camp, which I will put the link down below if you want to come and join us. It's a monthly membership and it's really lovely. And there's tons of support, and there's women from all walks of life on different stages of their journeys, and some are entrepreneurs, some work a full-time job with a side gig. And so it's really amazing to just see this group come together. And I didn't know that I needed this group way more than I thought, of me just wanting to be in community with Laura. And, I have followed Laura for many years, and we actually have a little bit of a cool story. And, we just keep track of each other from afar. But now the focus really has become really working on me internally. And I was going to therapy, and I am going to therapy and doing those things to overcome this package that I need to unwrap and unpack, peel back the onion layers. But I didn't know that I needed a community of people such as the ladies within cheer camp, to come with me on this other side of my journey, which is a little more businesslike, but not just businesslike, truly finding myself through working on some mindset shifts. And it's really just been this beautiful experience for me. So when I talk about pausing and when I talk about walking away from things that no longer serve you, I didn't really have to walk away from anything in particular long term because I already, from day one in my business, had made it my mission that I'm only going to show up on the platforms that I want to show up on. Everybody tends to do this differently, and everybody has a different perspective on if someone should show up on all social media outlets and if you should be posting multiple times a day. And I've really just wrestled on this quote unquote algorithm situation and showing up, on multiple platforms, multiple times of the day. You have to be part of stories and you have to do the reels and you have to. And what I realized is that was creating a scarcity mindset, and it was creating this FOMO within me that was I doing something wrong because I wasn't doing those things? And the pressure that I had from assuming that I had to do these things, otherwise I wasn't going to make it and quote unquote make it, right? Like, what is that? That's relative also. But I had painted this picture in my mind of what my social media was supposed to look like. But I hadn't sat back and painted the picture of what I wanted it to be like. And it was this eye-opening experience of pushing myself to rest, pushing myself to take the time to just absorb and be able to see my peers on social media rather than me be worried about posting and be worried about the numbers. I think it was just yesterday that I went and checked my insights and I was like, oh, so I'm down. Who cares? Moving on. It doesn't affect me. What I realized is within my business, within who I am as a person, I want to show up when I want to show up. And if that serves someone, that's great. And if it doesn't serve someone, that's great too. I think oftentimes we get in this headspin of, I need to reach all of the people and I need to have these people reciprocate somehow back to me. And, there are a ton of ways that you can engage content, and there are a ton of ways that you can show someone that you're supporting them on social media. But I always like to think of myself as like the silent scroller. And I do like posts and I do give out hearts and, all of those things. I rarely comment because that's just not who I am. So that's the other portion too, where I was feeling bad because I didn't have time to between doing my regular work and showing up on social media. I didn't have time to create thoughtful messages to people and comment on their things. And I was just feeling really bad about that. But what I realized is being a silent follower and cheering someone on doesn't have to be this outward experience. It doesn't have to be glorified all over their social media. And I get to drink in the people that I'm following. And I had realized that some of the people that I was following on my personal Instagram just weren't serving me anymore. They had served me at a specific time in my life. And as I've moved on, as I've grown, as I've changed, some of those people just don't fit my personal algorithm. And I had to realize that that's okay. And so I went through a detox of social media. And what I've learned during this time is incredible. And I've also learned how to position myself to take more pause, to recognize when I am in overload and to back out. And I've also given myself permission to know that that's okay. When we find ourselves being so over it, the motivation to take a pause sometimes gets lost within that. The churning and burning, and society has conditioned us to just be in an open space where we are just consuming, putting out, putting out. And we just get burned out. And what happens is we don't even realize until it's too late. We don't even realize until we're snapping at people, or we are having to now have a growing pain within our business where we are having to find people to match our abilities so that we can step back. And those are not bad things. It is a growing pain of you and your business and how you're showing up in that. And it's really wonderful. But it usually comes at the cost of being burnt out. And instead of being motivated to always do more, because that's what we think that the consumer wants, we have to be motivated to turn and look within ourselves and say, what do we need? What are the things that I need to be able to function? And if that does not include social media, if that does not include, doing yet another speaking engagement for the month when you've already got so many other things to do, if that means saying no to doing other people's podcasts, if that means just not posting on social media, you can be motivated to do those things with the pause in mind, with the assumption that I'm going to take this time, I'm going to drink this space, and then I'm going to come back and reframe how I am showing up here. We can change our perspective between have to and get to, because we understand that in those pause moments, we are getting to a place within ourselves where we are content, we are happy, we recognize when the burnout is coming, we recognize what our capacity is, we recognize when we have to leverage our team more, we recognize when we have to give up some things. And this is all so we don't let the I'm just over it mentality end us completely. I have heard multiple people within my circle just say, I'm just kind of done. I'm just kind of like over it. And while I understand, because I have been there as well, it's then taking a little bit of a pause and recognizing where are the areas that I need to scale, where are the areas that I need more help here. And if you are a journaling person, if you're not, I encourage you to get involved in journaling. I know people really, really hate it sometimes, and I really, really love it because I can just brain dump and I can plan and I can get out of my head and get into somewhere where I can see it on black and white, and I can say to myself, okay, like, this is a mess. I'm a mess. I am a mess. I'm going to read over this. I'm going to drink this up, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to figure out a way to fix it. And I'm going to figure out a way that I get to participate in my own life in a way that I had never even thought of before. So what am I going to do now to make sure that I am always inspired to keep moving and doing what I want to do and what I get to do? And for me, that answer is take more pause. Take more pause. And the pause for me looks a little bit different. If you listen to last week's episode, you know that I have been sort of shifting my mornings into doing more of this deep work. I really encourage you to purchase that book because it was life-changing in such a way where I was called to do more and be more, but not the expense of outwardly showing up more and outwardly showing up with things that I really didn't want to do. I'm going to call it the deep love journey. And I'm going to continue to really show up for myself and really live in the moments of getting to doing the work that I want to do. And sometimes the work is taking a pause, and sometimes the work is shifting my brain to read more or go to the coffee shop more or have dinner with girlfriends more or brunch on a Saturday, afternoon, whatever that looks like. But just showing up in spaces where I can be more and I can inspire myself more because I get to. And sometimes that is not going to look like showing up on social media more. So all of that to say that I hope this served you in some way, and I hope that through my own personal journey, this is what this podcast is all about, is just showing up with that big CEO energy. And sometimes that big CEO energy doesn't come out in the way that we think it is, which is external. Sometimes the big CEO energy is showing up for ourselves and reshifting our focus to getting to show up for other people. And we've heard it a million times, which is we cannot pour from an empty cup. And I will just leave you with that because I think that it's so important. Friends, if you are struggling to pour from your empty cup, I encourage you to just take a pause, to lean on the people that are in your environment, ask for help, automate as much as you possibly can in your life, and understand that you are a work in progress and you do not have to show up on social media and in client spaces as a rigid being, because you are a human. And as a human, you are loved. Until next time. Thanks for listening to That Big CEO Energy. If you heard something today that helped you, I would love it if you would leave a review and share it with your friends. This helps more people like you become inspired just like you are. If you would like to learn more about how I can help you streamline and position your business for growth or lead your business as a CEO, feel free to jump into the show notes with all of the links to find me. And don't forget to head over to Instagram so we can be pals.